Hey, Fanboy Nation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
We're watching. You're watching Fanboy.
Fanboy, etc.
Fanboy Nation.
Dot, I assume Tom.
Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with a man who is a top 10 Billboards artist. He's performed all over the world. He's friends with some of the greatest rockers you've ever met, including John Oates and Duff McKagan and Richie Sambora and everybody else. Unfortunately, for a while, he's been known as Rocky's brother, which is an unfair thing to call this man. Frank Stallone, how are you today?
Good. Yeah, for 45 years, all of a sudden I went from Frank Stallone to Rocky's brother. Then I went to Rambo's brother. And then I went to Expendables guy, whatever. Yeah.
I have to mention before we get deep into this, I know your mother passed away a couple of months ago. Mm-hmm. And I got to meet her about a year and a half ago at a Wow Women of Wrestling taping that's owned by David McLean, which was, he was the founder of Glow, Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, which your mom was a part of. Mm-hmm. You worked with Hulk Hogan at one point in his reality show of wrestling, as did your brother in Rocky III. What is it with the Stallone family and professional wrestling?
Well, I got to tell you, I was a child of the 60s watching wrestling here and there. I never really liked wrestling myself because my neck, so I got into boxing. So when I did Hulk Hogan's Celebrity Championship Wrestling, boy, did I get an education, because these guys are tough. And man, and I got slammed. I only lasted like one show because it wasn't because of the wrestling. It was because they wanted me to jump off this thing into a bag. And I have vertigo. I said, no problem, piece of cake. It was only like 25 feet. I said, can anybody get hurt? They go, well, you could break your neck. And that was it. so I didn't get beaten wrestling. I kind of beat myself.
Well, you know, it's a rough gig in that regard.
Oh, boy. They're tough guys.
Well, yeah. You know, from the stories that we saw in the documentary, you're a pretty tough guy, too.
Well, I try. But, you know, I'm pretty peaceful. But, you know, boxing in a way kind of saved my life in a way, because I suffered from horrible panic attacks and anxiety. And then when I got into the boxing environment, the gym and the camaraderie, and, you know, one day getting your ass beat, you know, I really kind of got into it. It's almost like you'd get into a big war, and then after you'd be like nullified, almost like you just had like a lobotomy or something, which I probably did, you know, have like a lobotomy. Cool. Yeah. So I really developed a love for it. Yeah.
With music, you know, the documentary, you go into how you've always had great pitch. You never really had to take a singing lesson or anything of that sort. I wanted to bring this up slightly because the whole Rocky's brother thing, which is annoying on the audience side, I can only imagine what it's been like for you for 45 years. Mm-hmm. Was there ever a moment that you thought, I'm going to use the Italian pronunciation of our name and become Francesco instead, and have that separatist attitude, the way Emilio Estevez went that route instead of being, you know, Emil Sheen?
Yeah, so I've been Francesco Stallone. No, not really. I mean, I always had a pretty good, like anyone else, I had a pretty good image and idea of myself, of what I was capable of and what I wasn't really good at, or what I was real good at and stuff like that. But I mean, by the time Rocky came out, I've been playing in bands for 12, 13 years. And I was kind of the local star. You know, we were getting ready to sign to RCA Records. And then, of course, Rocky came out. And there was no handbook on how to, you know, deal with that. I mean, all of a sudden, it was like, if anything, it was crazy for the audience. How about me? You think about, here I have a brother who used to talk on the phone. He couldn't get an acting job. He was basically unemployable. And like overnight, he's the biggest actor in the world. And it was, so there's no handbook for it. So, I mean, I didn't know how to deal with it. So I can't imagine what he went through. But, you know, thank God I had a band then, which I was very confident in. And so we played, and that kind of cooled everything out for me. I didn't get too stressed out about it.
Right. And then going from roughly $150 for the whole band for a gig to $150 each to be a part of it.
No, actually 140.
140.
So yeah, that was a funny thing, because we were going to play a place called the White House Bowling Academy, which is kind of a place, a bowling academy, but they had a stage. but they were notorious for having like really good looking chicks. And we were like, 23 years, 24 years old. So, and when they were paying us 140 for the night. So that was 160 minutes of music. So figure it this way. I mean, tell you, we were really on the market. The girls dug us. How about this? 5 guys, $140, cut 5 ways, and 20% for the manager. So we were high rollers. The girls are going, yeah, I got to get next to this guy. At least he made $19 clear for the night for 160 minutes of music. So we said, they go, nah, we don't want to do the movie, man. We want to play there. I said, you sure? I said, so my brother was all crazy. So he calls me back. He goes, okay, we got the 140. I said, but we have 140. He goes, no, 140 each. And I'm going, wait a second, $18 a night, 19. That's like 3 weeks worth of gigs. So we did it. And, I'd written the song already for it, because he called me once before. And then the rest is history. It's just kind of crazy how the whole thing went.
And then, but it also plays into your career because you're an actor, you've done reality TV, you're a musician, you're a songwriter. You have some serious friends in the industries. I mean, Frank Sinatra gave you a set of cufflinks. I don't think he just went around and handed those out to anybody. So, you have to have a level of talent and respect from people in the industry to see what you can do.
Yeah, I have 2 quotes. I mean, which is really, I have quite a few quotes, but 2, one from Frank Sinatra and one from Tony Bennett. And that was when I was doing my big band stuff. And the Sinatra one was crazy because I went to see him at the Hollywood Bowl, and and it was a bad date. It's like, oh my God, under the stars in Hollywood Bowl, like, why am I with her? This could have been like a great night. So I'm just like totally bummed out watching the thing, doing the best I can. The girl's not giving me any attention. So all of a sudden, Frank Sinatra, Don Rickles comes out, hands Frank Sinatra Jack Daniels. He goes, oh, by the way, is Frankie Stallone out there? And I thought I was tripping. I stood up. I went, yep. He goes, heard your new album with Billy May. Knock my socks off, kid. Salute. And now the girls all over me like a cheap suit. I can't, Now girls are coming down the aisle and asking for my autograph. So I said, you know what? Why don't you get a cab? I'll take care of it. I'll see you later. So it was a good night. Ended up good. Thanks to the chairman of the board. Yeah.
Hey, when you get a thumbs up like that, you can't turn it down.
Yeah, it's like Paul McCartney going, hey, love your album,
And then you didn't have to suffer through a bad date anymore.
No, I had suffered through about 5 bad dates that night. No, it was just a fun time. It was great.
You're still performing, you're still out there doing gigs, you're still acting. What does it mean to you at some point, there comes a side of celebrity with it that you've achieved of your own, but then there's the artistry on the other hand. Has the artistry suffered through the celebrity, whether through your own or through what people would assume is related to the whole Rocky franchise and what continued on through your brother?
Well, I think I had no delusions of grandeur. I did 77 movies and probably 50 of them were pretty bad, but I was a poor kid. I was broke, and I did some, and after Staying Alive came out, I started doing gigs, and then that kind of bottom fell out on that. So I was getting offered movie roles, and I did them. Because I had to make a living, and I actually enjoyed it, and I actually enjoyed kind of learning on the spot. So I didn't like go to Juilliard or RADA, either my brother or myself. So, but I think something suffered. I think something. So I didn't really have a great support team. As far as like, there's a lot of people with not much talent, but just have a great team around them that can, do the magical trick. Like, this person's like really good when they're not. So, but I never really had a mentorship or anything like that. Either did my brother. We had no mentors at all. So we were kind of basically flying by the seat of our pants, most of our career.
Right. At one point in the documentary, you mentioned your stepfather forcing you to work to purchase your own musical instrument, and then you buy a bass. Yes. And he's like, nope, not for you. Sorry. Good luck to you.
That was devastating to me, because making 80 cents an hour flipping hamburgers at Gino's, and saved up the money, and I went downtown because I was in a band But there were 2 guitar players and a drummer. We didn't have a bass player. So I used to turn all the treble off on my guitar. And that was the thing. You know, we used to plug our mics into our amps. It was terrible. You know. So I said, you know what, man, I'll get a bass. I'll play bass. So I worked all summer and I had my eye on this bass at 8th Street Music. I remember it was a Cleara. It looked like a Hofner bass, but it was a Cleara. And I got it and had like a kind of leopard case. You know, it was 1965. I was so proud of it. I brought it home and I wanted to show with them. Look, I worked all summer and this is what I got. He goes, I didn't say you could get that. And I went, what? It was horrible. It was devastating. I mean, I went into my room. I was crushed. And the thing was, it was in his closet, you know, so I walked by and it was just horrible. But I snuck it out anyway and played with when he was out of town. Yeah, he was
Did he
not.
want you to get a clarinet instead or something? Like,
Yeah. No, he was Sicilian, probably an accordion, but no, I didn't go that route.
Yeah. Well, your dad's from mainland Italy, so you know there had to have been that rivalry between mainland Italy and Sicily at that point.
Oh yeah. My father was a hairdresser, and you know everyone in my family was in the hair business. My aunt was a hairdresser. My cousin was a hairdresser. My grandfather Sylvester was a barber. My uncle Danny was a barber. My cousin Mark. So everyone was like kind of in the hair business. My brother was going to be a hairdresser. He went to hairdressing school, which lasted about 4 days. But you know, one of those things like that. Yeah, it wasn't what you would call the greatest supporting of a family. You know, there's a lot of kids out there. Their parents go to every game, every show. We didn't have that. So we, you know, just got to learn to live with it and kind of learn to entertain yourself. So that, speaking of COVID, when you've been somewhat of a solitary person to begin with, and my brother and I, we can just putter around the house and kind of entertain ourselves. We have hobbies, you know, and stuff like that, where other people like freak out. We're like, man, it's not bad for me. I can hang, you know? So it's...
I've kind of been that same way of, you know what, I'm just going to kick back in the house. I'm good to go. I'll go sit in the backyard, have a cigar or whatever. And then
exactly.
Yeah.
And just, you know, and watch, I don't even watch the news anymore. So I'm just watching basically encore Westerns, you know, Hopalong Cassidy. I mean, so basically, I mean, I love old movies anyway. So I'm either reading, which you can see that's just like a quarter of my library. I have thousands of books. And I got to say, I wasn't educated, barely got out of high school, but my mother always said, read books, read. So we had like every subscription to every magazine, Time, Saturday Evening Post, Look, Life, and, you know, and we used to see highlights, you know, Reader's Digest. So I kind of developed that. And my brother did too. We developed into somewhat voracious readers. And even though I've discovered the Kindle, it's good for when you travel. Because before I travel with the books would weigh more than my luggage. You know, because I liked hard copies. So you got like 6 hard copies in there, like weighs more than your guitar and amp, you know. So the Kindle comes in handy.
Right. I'd be remiss not to ask, that bass that your stepfather took away from you, hid in his closet, do you still have that bass?
No, I don't. No, I sold it to a guy. I'm always looking for it on Reverb, though. I didn't know if it was there, especially if it was from Philadelphia. But, you know, it's interesting, this movie. I mean, there are certain people I hadn't seen in 50 years. I mean, my first band members like Mike and Barty Savage and Mike Barford, and guys, I hadn't seen them seriously since 1968. And it was that to me was the most wonderful part. I mean, and I really let the director Derek and do his thing. I just said, I think it's just really important to find out where I came from. I want you to talk to people that saw me in my first band in 1965, and see what the reaction was. And it was actually there were parts of the documentary that were very moving for me, because, you know, people thought, well, you know, we're here just to meet chicks, but Frank was really in it for the long run, which I was, you know, because that's what I really wanted to do. So there's a lot of moving moments in, you know, I haven't seen it since my mother passed and my drummer passed and my manager passed and Danny Aiello passed. And so that it's kind of different, you know, it's gonna be a little weird. I hope I don't get choked up when I see it, but it could be, you know, you never know. I mean, it's just like, I've lost all my best friends. So
it's that Mediterranean blood. We know you're going to get choked up.
Oh, we'll get, yeah, of course. Yeah. Always the ham, you know.
Yeah. with the documentary itself, it's a great documentary. I can't believe you guys were able to whittle it down to 73 minutes. Take us through the process of how the documentary came about, how it was presented to you, or if it was your own idea, and just, you know, how Derek Wayne Johnson came along.
Derek Wayne Johnson came to me. He had done a movie called King of the Underdogs about John Avildsen, who directed Rocky 1. And and we had talked a little bit because I'd heard about this movie, and he was asking me stuff, you know. And then all of a sudden, he came to me one day, he goes, "You know what, man? I was just talking to some friends. We should do a documentary on you." I go, "On me?" They go, "Yeah." I said, "You know, you've had a pretty interesting life." I said, "Well, yeah, in some ways. Not the most successful life as far as an artist. I would have liked to have been a little more successful than it was." They said, "But that's not the point. The point is it's not how successful. There's people that are extremely successful, but they're incredibly boring, and they don't really have anything to talk about." And so they said, I said, "Are you serious?" They go, "We are absolutely serious." And I saw his movie, and I thought it was terrific, the one with John Avildsen. And so I said, "Okay." I said that what I can contribute, I can give you my Rolodex. No one even knows what that is anymore. But I mean, I'm just figuratively speaking a Rolodex. And so these are all people I'd known for many, many years, you know. And I said, "See what happens, contact them." I contacted a few, and they did. And I got to say, except for a few, two that I can think of, I'll leave nameless, that didn't do it. And then when I told my brother about it, he was like a little upset. "What do you mean they didn't do it?" Yeah. So, and but everyone was really great, man. You know, really great. And I was just thankful for everyone, and also thankful for Derek's stick-to-itness. I mean, you know, it took a long time to get this thing going. You know, it's probably 3 years. Yeah.
So 3 years to get the documentary made or get off the ground, and
No,
and
to
then
get
film
it.
or-
I mean, from probably start to finish. Yeah, I mean, because ran out of money. Then I brought my good friend Dave Palomeni in with his company, and they financed it. Then we met this wonderful people. Matter of fact, online, because we'd won a few film festivals, and someone just contacted me, this gal from England, and said, "Well, you know, we've placed a few things on Amazon and Netflix." I go, "Really?" I figured, what do we have to lose? So we sent it to them. They flipped out over it in England, branded his company, and they are the ones that got us a deal with Amazon Prime. They're the ones that are taking care of the publicity. They've just been absolutely fantastic, you know. And to thank Visionary, you know, was a small little company that first started, but Branded took over, and they've just done a fantastic job.
Well, what they put out with the documentary is amazing. And, you know, the way you tell your stories, you kind of remind me of one of my uncles. It's just that your stories are true.
Well, okay. And his are fantasy, right?
Not necessarily fantasy, but a little
Just stretches the truth a little. Yeah.
exaggerated, you know. Everyone's got that one uncle that's like that.
But did you notice, Art, I mean, it's a pretty big cast. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, you forget Burt Young's in it, Talia Shire, Billy Zane, Chris McDonald, Billy D. It's a pretty big cast. I mean, it's, you know, when I think back on it, I said, wow, that is great. And there could have been more. It would have been nice to have my bass player that passed away, the one when I bought his basses. Yeah, that would have been kind of nice if he would have been at it, because he would actually add a lot, because he was really funny. You know, he's a really good guy. We're like buddies, you know.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you guys lost your bass player, but it was interesting to see Valentine reunite and get along with each other, because there were issues,
Yes,
as the
there were.
documentary touches on, with a gentleman named Robin that I'm not going to
Yeah, my manager loved, and it was like, you know, we hadn't talked in like almost 29 years, and we used to live together, like with the group in the 60s. So but you know, and that was my call. I said, "You know what, man?" I said, I hate to say the cliche, but life is short, and things pass, and you never want to have something happen to someone and never been able to say, "You know what?" So I said, "Let's forget it." He was my manager during the time. Let's get his take on it. And I had no idea what he was going to say. I had no idea what anyone was going to say. but only thing I said, if you think I'm a jerk, whatever, just say it. If you think whatever. So no, I never thought he was any talented. I mean, that's what makes horse races. So I was prepared for all that, and I was just very moved by the kindness of a lot of people in it.
What's it like not only running into your first band? I believe it was called American Tragedy.
That's right.
So
I didn't even know what that was. I didn't know Theodore Dresser wrote that. It was my piano player, who was obviously a lot smarter than us, that had read the book. He goes, "I have a good idea. Let's call it The American Tragedy." And we're there, yeah, man, that's really cool. So for the first 30 years of my life, I didn't even know what the hell it meant. I didn't know it was like a famous book made into a movie, Place in the Sun. But, it's a rock and roll brain, right?
But what's it like going back, revisiting them, and then going back to the old neighborhood where, you're 15, 16, 17 years old, and
Wonderful.
like even going back to Maryland or whatever, and just reconnecting with all that? Do the memories start flooding back? Is there something that you want to forget?
Yeah.
Like, how does that work for you?
No, I don't really want to forget anything. I mean, I did the road, hard traveled road. I did it. I mean, I remember walking around. All I had was my guitar on my back, and I had like a little collapsible bag, like tiny thing, and hardly had anything. And I used to travel either by Greyhound bus or Trailway. And I'm not talking around the corner. I'm going from like Philadelphia to Florida, sitting next to someone that's snoring for like 4 days. And, I just had nothing. I mean, seriously, if I had $10 in my pocket, that was a lot. Or I travel by train. I mean, airplane was out of the question. I mean, and so I revisited all these places. I was virtually homeless, but not like homeless like you see now. I just didn't really have a nest. So I go down and stay with my father in Maryland. Then I go visit my brother in Florida, or if I was playing in town, I'd say, hey, in those days it's a little different than this now. I say, hey man, can I crash at your place? Sure, no problem. And so you flop on someone's couch you don't even know, and the next morning you're on the road again. And I was playing for seriously sometimes $5 a night, acoustic guitar, just a solo act. But I wouldn't change any of it, because I think the sum part of me is all those little things, Yeah.
Your dad was an immigrant, as was mine, and
yes,
you went to military school. You had
yes, I did.
a more American upbringing than which is what our parents more than likely pushed to have that American
Yes.
identity. When you decide to, when the family decides to go into the arts, what is Dad's first reaction? Go become an engineer? I didn't come here to bust my back for you to be an artist versus something else. Like
a little of the above. My father was a nice guy. He wasn't a rocket scientist, but like my brother got nominated for Academy Award. My father, hey, so how much you making? I said, they don't pay you for getting nominated for Academy Award, because they came from an era of immigrants and the Depression. So everything was about, you don't do anything for free. I said, well, that's where it was. Yeah, my father was kind of a rough and tumble, crude guy. He wasn't really into the arts. He really wasn't supportive, never said, hey, guys, we're really proud of you. Never that, but they were from a different era. Everyone in my family had an Italian accent, spoke Italian, but we weren't allowed to speak Italian, because in those days, if you didn't speak English, you couldn't get a job. Now, I kind of regret that, because I think now people are more bilingual, which is great. I mean, I would say my family was bilingual. They had Frank, I want to talk to you, come over here. They had an Italian accent, but they could speak English, and they paid their taxes, and they, I give my father a little credit. I mean, was in the military in 1940, came over in 1932. So, he and my Uncle Danny both served in World War II. So it was a different thing. A lot of times, and I find that now, that immigrants that are from hard scrabble countries are actually more patriotic than people that are born here, because they know what it's like to be, repressed and stuff. So my father was like that. And so it wasn't what you would call a demonstrative family at all. I mean, I know friends of mine, I admit I was kind of jealous when I was little. They had, their mother would go to see them in every gig they played. I don't think my mother came to see me play until I was in like my 30s or 40s. but that's okay. You know, I never really got bent out of shape about it. You know.
I had a similar experience with my dad because when I used to wrestle, you know, I was in school and everything, and my dad was always focused on education. So he'd be like, "Did you win?
Yeah,
Yeah,
what do you
okay, good. Go, you know, go do your
How
homework."
are your grades?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'd lose, and he'd be like, "All right, good. You know, you suck. Now go do your homework." Like that's all it
Well,
was.
yeah.
It was never anything
But
other than that.
because they came from a hard background, man, and education was important because unfortunately, well, I don't think my father went to the ninth grade. People had to go work. You know, my dad was born in 1919, so it wasn't like, hey, I think I'm going to go become an actor. Yeah, I don't think so. So that's. But I mean, I did follow my dream because, as you see in the documentary, this is what I wanted to do. I always wanted to do it. I had a stepfather that didn't get it, and he was kind of mean to me and stuff like that. And my own father was here nor there. He couldn't care less. You know, I mean, I could grow my hair down to here. He was a hairdresser. The other one, oh, you got to cut your hair. You got to go to military school. And so for a guy that really wants to be like the Beatles, that was a nightmare. I mean, coming home with a buzz cut from military school, I looked like, you know, I was getting ready for the electric chair instead of, you know, and everyone else's hair's getting long. They're wearing pea coats and beetle boots and stuff. And I'm wearing like floor shine, like, you know, Brogans. So, it was, you know, so I think that's what made me tough in that situation, that you just have so many failures. That's like when something good happens, like when Staying Alive happened, I had just been beaten up for so many years that when all of a sudden they start putting my music in the movie, I felt like it was a fantasy. My feet weren't even on the ground. I said, this is a sequel to Saturday Night Fever. And I've got like 9-10 songs in this. I'm in the movie and blah, blah, blah. It was, you have to understand, it was like, and that's coming 19 years after I started playing music. So it wasn't like overnight. So it was the first time I really had a chance to show what I could do. And I was so grateful to God for something like that. You know?
With all the successes and the failures and everything that goes back and forth in life, most people would have retired by now. What is the driving force for you to keep going? Like, for example, I saw Tony Bennett on Super Bowl Sunday. It would have been sweeter if the 49ers won when he sang, you know, right. I left my heart in San Francisco, but you know, I still got to see Tony Bennett on Super Bowl Sunday. Of course. And you know, Tony's what, 91 now, 92?
95.
So, wow. You know, is that like your drive? Like you see Tony and you saw Frank go all out, so like you're still going?
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, because one, I love doing it, and it's what I do. I don't know what I would do. I have a lot of other habits. You know, I'm a competitive trap shooter, and I have hobbies and sports like that. But the funny thing is, Tony wrote the liner notes to my album, my big band album. And when I was playing in New York at Michael's Pub, he came to see me. So he was with some girl, and all during my show, he was like looking up, watching. Then he'd been writing. He said, meet me for lunch tomorrow. And I met him for lunch. And he went over my whole show with me. He goes, you know, that was a really good one, Frank. And blah, blah. I go, wow, it's Tony Bennett. And I think we we're both Leos, so we got along pretty good, you know. And you got to give it to him, man. The guy has nonstop since the late 40s. I mean, and he's one of the great. So that's why I say when I have the quotes from Tony Bennett and Frank Sinatra, that's, you know, not many people can say that. I'm pretty, it's pretty cool. You know, it's pretty cool thing. It's like, I remember Roger Ebert, the late Roger Ebert, gave me a nice review when I did the movie Barfly, which meant a lot because he didn't like a lot of stuff, you know. And I mean, he never gave my brother a good review, so that was a little bone of contention. Yeah.
Is there still a bit of that sibling rivalry after all these years? I mean, you're not 12 anymore, you know, 12 and 15 or whatever it was.
Like stupid stuff. Yeah, not like, it's like stuff, it's just brother stuff. It's like, you know, like when we used to box, I was banned from the gym when we were doing Rocky 2 because we'd start sparring. It's like brothers, you know, you wrestled, you start messing around, all of a sudden it starts getting a little rough in there. And I don't know where I wasn't mad at anybody, but all of a sudden he pops me in the nose. I go, yeah, bang. We start like, and the producers are jumping over the rope. Hey boys, what are you doing? We're checking each other. It's like, it's supposed to be a sparring match. It turns into like WWE SmackDown, you know? So They said, Frank, you're not allowed on the lot anymore. I said, for what? He broke my nose. That doesn't matter. He's Sylvester. You forget it. That's what. But we've had a lot of stuff. As you can see from the documentary, he said, well, that's just how we roll. Like we told you, used to drop rocks on my head from like, we threw a drum pedal and it stuck in my head. It's just kind of part of like our thing. I mean, the other people, it's like the Addams family, I'm sure. But to us, it's kind of normal. Yeah.
But I'm glad that you guys are still having fun. You're enjoying life. You're doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
Frank, I have to ask this. I know we're running out of time on this end, but what does Frank Stallone want to be most remembered for? I mean, son of an immigrant, musician, top 10 Billboard artist. You've got so much going on in your own life of your successes that you need to count and include in your life, not just what everyone else tells you is your life. How does Frank Stallone want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as a good songwriter, performer. Very important for me to have the respect for my peers, especially when someone like you really respect and they go, man, that was really good. Listen, I'm not the greatest guitar player. I'm no Stevie Vai or Eddie Van Halen. I do what I do. It's like B.B. King. He played less notes than anybody. He's the most famous blues guitar player of all. And he said once, he goes, I get paid for the notes I don't play, which I think is great for me. So, and, I just would like to be remembered for doing some good work along the way. And, I mean, listen, the Rocky brother thing is probably, I'm actually going to put that on my gravestone if I decide not to get cremated. Here lies Rocky's brother. I'm far from over. That'd be kind of funny. It's almost like W.C. Fields, better here than in Philadelphia, on his gravestone. So there's some, there's some nice pundits you could think pros you could put on that, so I don't know. I think just doing good work, and, I've done some bad work too. So, it's kind of like Ed Wood type of thing. So it's no problem. I mean, I'm 70 years old. So I'm healthy, God knock on wood. I went through a bad year of back operations, but I'm back in the gym and I'm healthy, and I can really appreciate that, because there are a lot of people that aren't doing well, so I'm very proud of that.
Well, thank God for that. I mean, I'm excited to hear that. Before I let you go, we got about like 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
We know that your mom was also a medium. Did she ever make any predictions for you and your siblings? Because
Yes,
I know
she
you have
did.
a half sister as well.
Yeah, but most of them were wrong on my end, because I remember at 18, I was going through anxiety and panic attacks. I said, Mom, am I ever going to make it? She goes, well, let me look at my ephemeris. I think next year is going to be your year. That's 50 years ago. All right, so then it was like 30. Nah, this is coming up for you. Nothing. I said, so am I going to be famous like posthumously or what? I mean, I bet this way we're going. And unfortunately, she passed away. But but I've had, listen, Art, I've had my successes and I've had my failures. I mean, who hasn't? I mean, what is life if everything is successful? So it's. I'm just very grateful that most importantly, the most important thing is your health and the well-being of your family and your country and everything. That's real important stuff. We're just like song and dance men. We just do our thing.
I got it, man. Real quick, if you're on social media, where are you that we can connect with you?
Oh, I am on my Instagram is frank.stallone. My website is frankstallone.com. And also I have a guitar company, frankstalloneguitars.com, where we sell guitars that are really top grade for a really low price with a great guarantee, because things are tough now. And there's a lot of kids out there who want a really good guitar, but they can't afford to spend $3,000. And I have that, and my Instagram, my Facebook. I think I'm very, my memory is going, because I think I got hit in the head too many out of 33 fights. So everything is like, has something to do with music. So, or my name. I think Facebook is at Frank Stallone. Instagram is frank.stallone. So frankstalloneguitars.com. So I just kind of keep it homogenized.
I dig it, man. And before I forget, have you ever gotten a chance to play with Paul McCartney or any of the other Beatles?
Unfortunately, no. I've met George and Ringo, which was quite a thrill, because I worked with Harry Nilsson, and Yeah, I met Paul. I did. I had a picture with Paul and my brother. My brother, my brother when he was young kind of looked like Paul. He goes, I swear to God, he goes, Paul goes, one time I had used your face. Paul said, oh, really? Okay. Wonderful. So that was kind of it.
Just with all that British charm. And Frank
British
Stallone,
charm.
it's been a pleasure. Stallone, Frank that is out on digital and VOD January 19th. Congratulations on this documentary. I'm looking forward to the DVD when that's finally released so we can get to see all the extra bonus features.
Well, thank you, Art, and have a happy new year.
Happy New Year to you too.
All right, my brother.